Hey everyone, my name is Colleen Tovar, and I have a story to tell. I am a daughter of someone that passed of cancer. My dad passed in 2017. My brother passed of cancer most recently. And my husband right now is terminally ill of cancer. And there's many ways to deal with grief. I recommend definitely to seek out counseling. And also, by all means, there's grief counseling. However, when I attend grief counseling, I would say by all means, I depress the shit out of everyone. Also, I'm very time consuming because not just with family members of cancer, my husband also had a coworker who had COVID related symptoms and had passed recently. So I'm very time consuming. But I must say that laughter is truly best medicine besides actual medicine. So don't avoid going to seek medical advice. So what I found is that this is very intriguing, that when you have a family member very ill, most specifically terminally ill, it's strange how not only do people WebMD shit, but they also end up getting credentialing for medical. They become an MD. I have had more people all of a sudden tell me all this medical advice for my dad, for my brother, for my husband. I was just blown away. I thought that I could rely on my husband's oncologist, but unbeknownst to me, all of a sudden I was getting diagnoses from all of my friends and family. So I was really blown away on that. That blew my mind. But I'm going to give some piece of advice to everyone that laughter truly is the best medicine besides actual medicine. So walking you through a few things for me that I found pretty freaking funny was with my dad. First, my mom, mind you, is not even 100 pounds. And with hospice, they didn't give her an electric wheelchair. They just gave her a push one. And so imagine her trying to push my dad. So family pulled together and lent her an electric wheelchair. My dad used to be a car racer. So if you're not first, you're last. He took that electric wheelchair and went all around the house, and there's still holes in the wall to this day. He just decided he was going to speed all around. So then they built a ramp around the house, outside the house. And his friend, who walks around like he's just rode a horse, so he's walking on the ramp, his friend's walking around, and my dad, still with a sense of humor, he's like, hey Dick, come here. And so my dad's friend is like trying to walk on the ramp, and my dad freaking tried to run him over. Oh my God, that was so funny. You see these two old buddies, best friends for over 40 years. My dad tried to run over his best friend. And yes, definitely cancer is sad, but to watch my dad try to run over his best friend was frickin' hilarious. And my dad would always run off in the carport or in the garage and hide or tinker just to get away from the women. And many times my dad would fall asleep. But you know how when people fall asleep with their mouth gaped open and drool? Guilty. He would always do that, but my mom and a few other friends and family would make me check on him because he looked like he was dead. So they would have me check on him, and I'm like, I don't want to be the one to do that, but they'd make me go out there and check on him, and he's holding on to his radio and a blanket and wheelchair, and I'm like, fuck, really? So I'd go out there and check on him, and then, startling an old dog or an old man, not a good idea, because I don't want to give him a heart attack if he is alive. And he would look at me like snorting, like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, honest, Dad, we thought you were dead. And he just looked at me like I am the worst bag of dicks, which I am. That's my nickname, Bag O' Dicks. Should be on my shirt. So he just looked at me nose to nose and he said, I don't have to worry about you. And I thought, you kind of do, but these are sort of the events that would occur behind the scenes because a lot of people just don't know. They know a lot of the other things that happen with individuals that go through cancer. Or maybe people don't know the deplorable things that happen, but a lot of the things that happen with my dad are pretty freaking hilarious. And with my mom and I that went to go see my brother, I don't know, my mom hasn't flown in a while, but the whole 8-hour flight, she drank coffee. I think she cleaned out the flight of Alaska Airlines with her coffee. So I didn't get any sleep. She talked to me. She talked my ear off, which is hard to do. She drank coffee the whole freaking flight while my husband on the other side slept. Still pissed about that. So by the time that we get to go see my brother, I am punch drunk tired. And my mom's wide awake, hopped up on caffeine, and we get to see my brother, and he had radiation and chemo, and he doesn't realize what chemo brain is, and it's probably, I don't know, almost 80 degrees over in Florida, and he has the heat on to 80 degrees. What the fuck? So he also had lost his hearing. That's another side effect to radiation and chemo. So he's yelling at us. Also hormonal change with chemo. So he's a lot of fun. And so I try to pull him aside and tell him, hey, did your doctor talk to you about any of this stuff? But he's just, I don't know the best way to describe chemo brain, but he's kind of like a toddler, old lady, old man, and a pregnant woman all bunched up together. So again, he's a lot of fun. So eventually, again, I get him to talk to his doctor, but we're standing in line, for example, at a doctor appointment or at Target, and he just has no fucking patience. And he's yelling at the checkout gal, he's yelling at supermarket gal, everyone. And for the most part, I'd be, apologetic, but I'm just riding this out, laughing, because what can we do? I mean, they can tell, he's gone through chemo because he's got the bald head, and not even the good looking kind. He looks like Charlie Brown, and he's got the jaw moving around, and he's just a lot of fun. And the poor guy's just suffering. So everyone's being very tolerable of him, but it's just, oh my God, we're all suffering. We all look very exhausted. So we're just trying to be as patient as possible, but it was not an enjoyable trip. And it's just funny when people ask us, how was your trip? And I'm thinking, no, it was hell. I mean, it was great to see him, but it was just torture for everyone. And although it was great to see him, it was just interesting. And I love him, and it was wonderful again to see him. But I mean, again, imagining to see someone in that caliber, and I feel really bad to talk about being tired around someone, but he was always wanting to be busy, but you feel like an asshole being tired around someone who has chemo. But definitely that was interesting. And then with my husband, he was diagnosed right after we left my brother's, and so when he had infusion treatment, he would come out of infusion treatment, and mind you, he's on SWAT and a detective. He would come out of the infusion room. I don't really know how to describe him other than as if there was an earthquake and a bomb going off, and he would barrel out of the room, just like so dramatic, and like everyone in the waiting room was freaking the F out. He would just burst out of the room, because I'm not allowed in there because the pandemic, but he would just burst out of the room, and I ran after him, making sure he was okay. And he never check him. He was not checked out. He would just check himself out. So I'd have to clarify with everyone in the room, like, hey, can he get out yet? And I'd have to make sure the pump was ready for him, because he'd leave with a pump. And then when he'd get in the parking lot, he would accuse me of tripping him. So he'd be like, stop tripping me. And like everyone around would look at me like I'm some jerk. They don't know I'm his wife, right? So I'm like, they don't know who I am. Again, bag of dicks. So I would tell him, hey, let's take it easy. And he'd nearly fall. And sometimes he would fall. So, the guy'd have bruises on his arms and nicked and everything. So it looked like I'd beat the shit out of him. So I'd have to explain to friends and family to come visit him, I did not beat my husband, FYI. So he'd have that going on. And then some of the medications that my husband had some adverse side effects. I don't know how to describe this. So some of the hiccups, yeah, it sounded like, I can't make this shit up. It sounded like a zombie and a seal, if they got together, that was my husband. And so he had a zombie / seal noise, hiccup. And it was so horrific. I did videotape it and an audio because it was that horrible. And then in addition to that, he had a pump that he'd come home with for a couple of days. And that pump, I didn't get any sleep. I still have nightmares about it. It sounded like Darth Vader was dying. So in between that pump noise and the hiccups, our German Shepherd, we have 2 dogs. The Cocker Spaniel didn't care. She would sleep right next to him and keep him comfortable. And I laid in bed with him too, but again, no sleep. Our German Shepherd was so mortified she would howl at night. And in the howling alone, I was worried that someone in our neighborhood would complain because it sounded like I was abusing her and that we were harboring a seal in the home. So the seal and zombie noise and our German Shepherd crying was just, and this went on for about 8 sessions of chemo. And so every night after I made sure Mike was doing okay, with his medications and he was asleep, I would go in and I'd sleep with Athena, our dog, for a little bit, and I would sing to her. I love one of the TV shows that sings Soft Kitty, but I would sing Soft Puppy, and I'd sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and You Are My Sunshine until our dog, 120-pound German Shepherd, was asleep. And then after my dog was asleep, then I would come back in with my husband and our other dog. So to this day, because my husband's not doing infusion chemo anymore, he's on oral chemo, I still have to sing to my dog every night. She expects it. So that happened. So, and then in the midst of more of the chemo treatment, my husband needed to go to the emergency room about 5 times. So in the midst of that, you really learn who your friends and family are. And I have some amazing friends. So some of my friends that would come and help us out and help me get my husband, because I couldn't get him out of bed. One of my friends, our neighbor, she would help me get him out of bed because it was a struggle. Life's a struggle, right? Help me get him to come downstairs. And so I was really upset, as you could imagine. I see her up at the top of the stairs, and I'm very emotionally compromised. I'm just really upset. And I see her up at the top of the stairs, and she's laughing, but she's laughing so hard she's kind of crying. And what got me is that she wasn't wearing the same clothes that she started with, and it looks like she's wearing a skirt. And this woman does not wear a skirt. I saw a picture of her obviously wearing a dress once, and that was her wedding dress, and this woman again doesn't wear a dress or a skirt. So I noticed this, and she's laughing, and she said she split her pants trying to get him to come downstairs. And I was like, what the fuck? And she said she split her pants and she had to put a towel on, and she said she needed me to get up there with him for a minute until she can change her pants so she can help get him to the emergency room. So that, I can't make this shit up. And it was pretty freaking funny now, but at the time I was just so distraught. And then about a week later, she was also helping me with another project. We're selling this house in the midst of everything. So much is going on. So she was helping me get a lot of items off around our house so the painters could come, because a lot of people came together from his department and from the community to paint the house. So it's a really hot day, of course, or one day off. And she's up on a ladder, and again, we're having an intense conversation, pretty emotional. And I look up at her, and her ass is just sweaty, her back and her ass. And that's right where her butt was. And I just told her, I'm like, Jen, I can't focus. I can't talk to you right now. You got swamp ass. And that's all I can call her now, is just swamp ass. Yeah? And again, I mean, just in these moments, when people are telling me, Colleen, how can you keep it together? How can you do this? And it's just like, I'm sorry. In these moments, there's a lot that I can think of as like life is either a miracle or nothing's a miracle, but I just hold on to these moments of swamp ass. I don't know, just funny little things. I can't help it. I can't help it. And sure, again, I repeat, I would love to scream, but I just don't want to be collected by law enforcement or an ambulance. But on that note, on one of the dates of taking him to the emergency room, I was definitely tired. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and we're driving back to the house, and I pull up to the driveway, and one of our other sweet friends was waiting. She, as she does, she's Annie, so sweet, and she was dropping off an item, groceries, and Mike gets out of the passenger side, and he's stumbling in, and all of a sudden my car starts to roll back, and all I hear is Mike going, "What'd you do?" And I'm like, well, that's typical of a police officer, right? Accusatory. And I'm like, fuck, I'm tired, so I always put it in park and e-brake, but I'm just haven't been sleeping, and I was negligent. I was, and I see the car rolling, and I see Annie, and I hear her go, "Oh," or "Whoa," and I get back in the car, and I get the car in park. She's fine, but I'm just like, that's what Mike always says to me is, "What'd you do?" And in hindsight, I just kept thinking to myself, as my mind's always racing, I kept thinking, how is this going to play out, right? Her husband's a coroner. My husband's detective in SWAT. We're having one of the other friends of the family and coming over. He's in SWAT. I have family, military, and law enforcement. How's this going to play out? I have family and friends and psychology. I mean, how is this going to go? Whose jurisdiction is this? Who am I going to talk to? What is this going to look like? I mean, obviously I have guilt and everything, but I'm like, that's where my brain went. How am I going to have these conversations? I killed Annie. I killed Annie. That's all I kept thinking about. And so, of course, when our friend came over and he's on SWAT, I just kept saying, what the hell? How would I work this out? And all he had to say to me is, well, this would make a great Lifetime movie. And I thought, yeah, I guess it would, wouldn't it? And that's really all I kept thinking about is, I guess my life would make a great Lifetime movie. Because, I mean, sometimes I just feel like a bag of dicks and a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I guess, huh? And then that's the other part, too. People keep saying, how's your self-care? How's your self-care? And I'm like, valid point. Sometimes I don't shower. One day, I think I maxed out, and this is disgusting. At 7 days, I did not shower. Okay, hold up. I did baby wipes. I use baby wipes. I have a baby wipe warmer because with Mike's chemo, right, he couldn't have anything cold. It was all warm liquids, soups, and then with baby wipes, I had a warmer, so I would, wash him and then myself as well, Okay, I'm not that disgusting. All my parts were all clean, but there were times showering was just not an option because I was with him. I still am, 24/7. So I kept thinking about it, and even when it's snack time in bed, and I'm surprised I haven't plumped up, I kept thinking to myself, I had popcorn kernels like stuck to my nips. I mean, I thought, yeah, I hit it. I hit a new level. I was pretty gross and nasty. And someone was telling me, they're like, yeah, Colleen, it'd be really great if we could go get a spa time. I'm like, yeah, I'm not there yet. We're packing up, trying to sell the house. I'm not there yet for a spa time. I mean, I'm gonna get this house sold, see where life takes us. But I knew I hit a new low. That's for sure. So yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, laughter is for sure the best medicine. And I just want to reach out to those that are going through cancer, caretakers, and say, when people say self-care, I think, again, it's just through the darkness. It's laughter, please. And that's why I've always loved Gilda Radner. I've always loved Tig Notaro. I love all of the comedians because that's how I've survived. In the middle of the night when Mike couldn't eat, I'd go downstairs, I'd put on some Comedy Central, I'd put on HBO Max, I'd put on, okay, not the porno stuff, HBO Max, but I put on comedy. And I'd have to eat secretly because I felt so bad that, my husband wasn't able to eat. But I ate, and I'd have food all over and comedy. And so I'm so grateful. I hope that I'm able to reach out to those and know that you're not alone. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. And thank you so much. And I hope that this reaches some of you very much. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.